The more interesting case, of course, from the point of view of most right-thinking people in this country, is that of Babar Ahmad, which a number of MPs on both sides of the House have raised as particularly worthy of raising eyebrows.
Sure, because of course Babar Ahmad has been prisoned without any trial in the UK, and actually there's been a massive campaign, has there not, with thousands and thousands of signatures?
Tens of thousands of signatures. I understand thousands of people have marched. This has raised a massive concern, and not just in Asian communities, across the country. This is not me giving a legal opinion to suggest that there is a real narrative of disquiet among UK citizens who are concerned that there is a degree of inequality between the way in which the US are allowed easily to extradite UK citizens, but the same rights of the UK state to extradite to the UK US citizens who are wanted here simply don't exist in the same way. In fact, it was something that was raised by the coalition over 2 years ago in their coalition program. They said, we will review the US-UK extradition treaty in the context of it being even-handed.
Wow.
It's a real shame for Babar Ahmad that review hasn't taken place. And of course, I wouldn't seek to presuppose what the final decision of the Director of Public Prosecutions. As I understand it, the DPP has been written to by both Keith Vaz and Sadiq Khan, who is Babar Ahmad's MP, to reconsider the evidence in his case. I mean, it's probably worthwhile going back and looking at some of the facts in Mr. Ahmad's case. He's accused of crimes which largely are supposed to have taken place in the UK. There are allegations which are denied by the Metropolitan Police Service that, in fact, the evidence that the US are relying on in this respect was gathered by UK police, not handed to the authorities, the prosecuting authorities here, handed straight over to the police. To the US state, and on that basis he's being extradited. The obvious question that some legal commentators, MPs and the general public may well be raising, justifiably one might think, is why on earth has he not been tried here? In fact, it was something that was raised as a frustration by the district judge in the original proceedings in the Magistrates' Court as was City of Westminster.
And now it kind of he is one of the longest held suspects in detention in Britain without having faced any sort of trial. So in terms of the case of Babar Ahmad and also Syed Talal Arsan, both of these, is it the end of the road? Are they definitely going to be extradited then?
Legally it would very much appear so, no matter how that might stick in the throats of many people who'd be listening to this and many citizens across the country. There is a discretion that still lies with the Director of Public Prosecutions that Sadiq Khan has asked to be looked in, to be considered, to consider trying this person here. Arsha, let me tell you something, that it is absolutely one of the great unsung indignities of being accused of a crime, that you must wait for a long period of time, not knowing what the outcome is. And it's something which somebody who hasn't been in that situation simply can't understand. The idea of waiting with a sword dangling, Damocles sword dangling over your head, not knowing what is going to become of your life, and when the term of your sentence is actually a punishment and an indignity that no civilized country should be permitting. And that's why this 8 years, even by the Lord Chief Justice, who said, I'm not going to comment on individual cases but in respect of Mr. Hamza, but 8 years, what's going on? Clearly he is commenting. That is a tremendous indignity that we should be seeking to avoid. And in this case, Mr. Ahmad, who has served the equivalent of a 16-year sentence now in English law by serving 8 years in a British prison for offences that alleged to have largely taken place in the UK. The evidence has been gathered by police here, and he's being charged in America. He's being brought to America. That's something which is causing real disquiet.
Sure, and the reason why all of these men have been saying and being out there in the public and saying, look, they feel that they would face inhumane and degrading treatment if they were extradited to the US. What are prisons like in the US? Is there anything more you can tell us about that?
To think of something that one might relate to, I'm sure many of the people listening today will have seen documentaries of American prisons. I believe in the last couple of years there was one done by the slightly ironic and comical, but ultimately quite serious interviewer, Louis Theroux. The reality is that these places are hellholes. The difference between an American prison and a UK prison, especially prisons at that level, is palpable. I'm not saying that we've gone all the way in terms of prison reform here, far from it, but certainly should I ever be unlucky enough to face a prison sentence, and I'm sure that will never happen, I'd certainly rather do my sentence in Britain rather than in America.
Sure. Now back to Abu Qatada. He's saying that he hasn't got his passport. He's arguing he can't be extradited because of his health as well. So potentially we are looking at a case where he might not be extradited.
Yeah, I think patience is probably running out as far as the courts are concerned in respect of Abu Hamza. We have a situation where the fundamental and larger appeal to the Chamber of the European Court has failed. They've been denied permission to appeal to the Grand Chamber. The major issues were discussed in there as far as the types of things we've raised in terms of the difference in prison regimes between Europe and the US, and the European Court wasn't sympathetic. I understand even a copy of the passport would be acceptable to the lawyers of Abu Hamza. I, of course, can't comment in detail on the ins and outs of that case, but it would seem as if that case may well be reaching the end of its road.
Joseph Kotrie-Monson, thank you so much for breaking everything down for us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. That's the director of Mary Monson Solicitors based in Birmingham.